Ba-da-dum, 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 ba-dum. Mission Impossible. Okay. I still don't know how to start this. I mean, look at me. I haven't prepared anything. There is no script. This is real life happening right now because I'm so devastated about the movie. I couldn't really sleep. I haven't shaved. Look at me. I look shockingly. I mean, I haven't put anything on. I haven't kissed my wife. I'm still so upset and nervous. And the thing that bothers me the most, that I have the greatest difficulties wrapping my head around, is the fact that, Tom Cruise is one of those few remaining Hollywood actors that are really able to elevate the average quality of the pictures that they're in. In addition to that, Tom Cruise brings that unstoppable force of nature type of demeanor, right? He has that impeccable work ethic. I feel like he infects everybody in a positive way to push a little bit more. He not only inspires his cast members, but also his crew members to improve daily, to search out for greater improvements, right? To try to achieve something extraordinary. He sets higher quality standards for his environment, and that is a super positive thing. And probably the only positive thing I have to say about this movie, because the rest was shockingly dry, utterly underwhelming, and terribly boring. You heard me right, it was boring. How is it possible that a Mission Impossible movie is possibly so boring? I mean, it's impossible. And I can't understand how we got to this point. I really don't. Here, the storyline was just confusing. It was a mess. It was all over the place. It didn't really make sense. It was very fragile, thin, and one-dimensional. I'm sorry. Because of the supporting cast, not well integrated. I felt like some of the cast members were just thrown into the scenes without any logical reasoning. Some of the characters were just popping out of the blue, kind of serving the plot to move forward and then disappearing again, till they were reappearing and shooting somewhere and then kind of disappearing again and reappearing without any sense, without any connection, without any narrative. There was no exploration, no introspection of any other character. Tom Cruise itself as Ethan Hunt was terribly poorly written. I don't know what he was serving. His love interest, saving the world, saving his own integrity. What was he like doing in this movie? So many windows were open. None of them were closed because the story was appearing here a little bit and then it was appearing on the ground floor and then in the penthouse section and on the 10th floor. And there were some great moments where you thought, oh, right, maybe it was going into this direction or that direction or this, but all these little branches of story development kind of fell over a cliff. They kind of stopped right there. Subsequently, the scenes were too long. The movie was way too long. And I know, I get it. Being an editor on a Tom Cruise project and telling Tom Cruise, let's cut $100 million worth of movie out of this film, right? Because it's not serving the purpose. It's difficult to tell. They're talking way too much. And the dialogues are shockingly uninteresting and boring and shallow. There is nothing to talk about. They're all talking and then they have like this action sequence and then they're talking again and then they have this little action sequence again and then they're talking and talking and they're even interrupting big action sequences to insert another dialogue, another little talk, another little explanation. To a certain extent, yesterday, it kind of reminded me of a soap opera in terms of how they were speaking so slowly and so clearly and so dramatically and so over accentuated. They filled up these dialogue scenes that were not making a lot of sense with these artificial breaks and sometimes these prolonged pauses or this very slow and thoughtful way of saying things in a scene, as if we were talking about rocket science. There were some nice ideas, especially in the beginning of the movie, because for the first time, spoilers, he's not fighting like a real entity, but an algorithm. A program, right, that went sideways for itself. And that could be potentially a very interesting story because like a Phantom Protocol, like a Ghost, that program could appear everywhere, on every screen. Potentially that's a fascinating topic when you're fighting an enemy that has no face, but it's just made of information and codes, right? There is no physical barrier that can stop invisible, unphysical enemies. Potentially there was a lot to tell there and a lot to explore. Instead we just saw that singularity type of mystery entity that is the algorithm kind of just appearing here and there and not really doing something. They throw all sorts of tropes and mysterious keys into this movie. And if you use those tropes in an inflationary way over time, they get boring. This usage of the word key in this movie that is, I don't know how many times they said key, that the word itself lost its meaning. They said it so many times throughout this movie. Everybody said, oh, I got the key. No, the key. Oh, here's the key. Yeah, what key? What key? What does this key do? We don't know. It's a mystery. Yeah, okay. But if you say it for 3 hours straight and it's no mystery anymore, and you're not even interested anymore, it just bothers you. You find it boring. It's not conclusive. The story is not going anywhere. So this is, I feel like, the biggest problem with this movie. Let's see the first Mission Impossible movie, directed by the master himself, Brian De Palma. It was received back then, welcomed with a lot of skepticism, because not everybody believed that they could actually translate the Mission Impossible series with its vintage decor and ornamentation and stories with that panache and that charm from the 60s into modern times without losing its credibility, its flair in a way. But they did. They pulled it off. It was a stellar cast. John Voight, Juliette Binoche, Jean Reno, Tom Cruise himself, like great actors, wonderful stuff, Emilio Estevez. It was just the story, the overall feeling and ambience to it. It made you feel like it's still Mission Impossible, but they're bringing it into contemporary times, and that worked perfectly. Everybody made a contribution to the mystery and to resolving that mystery. It was a spy, crime, detective type of investigational action story. Over a year, migrated and being just an action movie with some spy elements, but still it worked nicely. If you think about The Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation, they were brilliant movies. Especially Rogue Nation was a wonderful movie. This is when empires mostly fall, on the height of their success, right? On the height of their success, they introduced elements that were not really part of the Mission Impossible core theme. Longer stories over many plot lines, over many movies, integrating, reoccurring actors and characters, letting them come back. In the beginning, the Mission Impossible series was designed one episode, you have one case, you have one adventure, you solve that, you go back, everything is fine. And then you move up to the next adventures, story by story, so it will evolve. Starting with Rogue Nation, it started kind of to evolve this longer arching plot over many movies, and that is always difficult. It's always a risk. They had the courage to do that. Props to them for, being willing to invest in a longer arching plot that could span over many movies, right? Introducing those characters and those other plot lines that were not necessarily part of the original idea of what Mission Impossible should be. But it kind of worked for Rogue Nation. And so we were really hoping for that Reckoning Part 1. But now I feel they've lost a little bit the compass. It's not a spy story anymore. It's not a real action movie anymore, because nonetheless, we have some great action sequences. The one on the train is really great. There are so many things that make no sense anymore. Like the great scene that everybody's anticipating, everybody's looking out for. That scene doesn't make any sense. How he gets there, why he's doing that, and how he gets into the train. All of a sudden, things happen in this movie like they've never happened prior to that, right? It just seems to happen without any explanation. Prior to that, you have resolved every situation always in an excellent way. Now it feels like, okay, this is a little bit botched. It's not really creative. Let's jump to the conclusion. Let's not explain how we got there. Really? Come on. Make some efforts to kind of bring us that satisfaction. We're here for you. And it's always beautiful. Tom Cruise appears with his director and telling us, yeah, this is fan service. We did this just for you. A lot of practical effects, real stunts, real people, real joy, real action. I get that. That's beautiful. Thank you for that. Again, that's super positive. But if that doesn't play out, it feels a bit shallow. It feels just like an announcement. The marketing is great. Presentation is great. This worldwide tour, this feels all great. It kind of is enticing, it is engaging, it kind of got me hyped even more. But then of course you fall even deeper, even faster, in an even more radical way after seeing the movie and say, this is what you promised and this is where it's going, right? It's never right. It's never perfect. Whether it's too much or it's not enough, whether it's too explained or not explained at all, it's never the golden ratio. It's never right there where it needs to be. And the fact that there are so many little mistakes and plot holes, it's really unbelievable. I guess what I want to say is, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. It's about the culture, about getting better. And definitely, you can do better than this. I'm looking forward to the second part of that reckoning. Hopefully that one is gonna be a hit. We hope that this is just a dry build up for a better outcome, for a better finale. Because I feel like Tom Cruise wants us to be entertained. He wants us to escape for a couple of hours. He wants us to be excited about his movies. And I want that too. I want entertainment industry back on its throne, back creating great movies. They're enticing, entertaining, and beautiful to watch all day long. Now, I need another espresso. I hope you enjoyed this movie review. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of this movie if you saw it. And now I'm getting my breakfast and I can finally start with my day. Or maybe I should buy some Bitcoin. Maybe Tom Cruise was telling me that.